Since the kitchen was fitted, we found it an absolute pleasure to use.
Well, now this kitchen's completed, and I'm just the envy of all my friends. They just think it's fantastic. Whereas before I was the laughing stock because I had this awful, unworkable kitchen. People are just amazed how it can be transformed in a relatively short time. I mean, it's taken us years to do other things on the house, but in a week, it's just amazing. What
we have found is we've been filled with a new vigour and enthusiasm for our do-it-yourself exploits, and we're already planning our next project up in one of the bedrooms.
And there's so much storage space, and I can have the things out that I want to because I've got lots of worktop. The Welsh dress is absolutely fabulous. It's fantastic, really pleased.
Hi and welcome to the first day of our latest challenge, which brings us to, well, actually there's a bit of a quandary. The postcode says Powys in Wales,
but we're actually in Herefordshire in England.
And our task is to actually build and fit a kitchen that's going to be suitable for this rustic Victorian cottage.
No pressure then.
Right then, Marty and Rob, tell us why you've invited me and Big Al down here.
Well, the reason is I've been living here for 7.5 years. I've been working weekends, evenings. I've really been working very hard, and I'm getting nowhere. And I thought the time has come to get some experts in and really try to move the thing on a bit.
So how many jobs have you got for us?
I reckon we've got at least 3,000, probably a few more.
Come on now, let's get out of it. 3,000 jobs.
3,000, a little bit too many. You're looking for one or two.
Just the kitchen, please, just the kitchen.
What problems have you had so far?
The roof, the floors, the walls.
Anything else?
That's trouble for me. I see trouble ahead. Now you want to have a kitchen fitted?
Yes.
And something that suits the period, I
yeah, something sort of rustic that ties in. We've got lots of oak beams around, so we'd quite like wood.
Mm. Well, this is our resident joiner, and I'm sure he's come up with a great plan for this, have you?
Yeah, I do have a little cunning plan.
Oh, no, we haven't got 2 years to do this. I just thought I'd remind you, Mr. Hurd. Right, well, I think the first thing we'll do is clear the kitchen out of the stock. So you here to help us?
We certainly are. The house was built in 1846, and since that time it's been modified over the years by various people who've lived here. We're working very, very hard at the moment, obviously, to make it our dream home. The first time I saw the house, I fell in love with it. It looked absolutely superb. The position was right because I wanted somewhere that was quiet, secluded, and it was everything that I wanted. The only problem was it needed an awful lot of work doing on it. We have got to a point now, obviously, 7.5 years on, where motivation is at a pretty low ebb. And we wrote to Tommy, and thank goodness he's come, because what it's going to do is give us a huge morale boost, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to carry on the good work. The look that we're hoping to achieve with the kitchen is something that fits in nicely with an older property. We want to enjoy our creature comforts, of course, so what we're looking for is something that offers all of those facilities. I suppose the best of both worlds, that's what we're looking for.
That one. Ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Effortless, really, you see? This is how the Egyptians actually built the pyramids. Did you know that?
What, rolling the stones?
Yeah. Yeah. And that was before Mick Jagger was born. Right then, Mr. Hurd, show us this masterpiece of yours.
Well, what we have is units along that wall.
So that's here on the left of the door. OK, yeah.
Then we've got the new cooker going in there.
Yeah, so that's on that wall over there.
Yeah. Then we've got the stove. Yeah.
Goes back in. So we can basically take where the stove is, because that's a fixed position. That can be our marker.
Yes.
For where we start the kitchen.
Exactly.
We work to the right of that.
Yeah.
Back of the return under the window where the sink's going to go.
Yeah. Then at that point there, because the wall's angled, I'm going to reduce the depth of the top there, and that's going to be open shelves underneath.
Now, Bearing in mind that this is a Victorian cottage about 1840, what do you plan to make it from?
Softwood, reclaimed softwood, pine.
Reclaimed, that's good because then it won't twist
Exactly.
or shake. That's done all the movement it's going to do by now. Our first job is going to be hacking off all the plaster.
Yeah.
And you can start cutting all the timber up, putting that together as soon as we finish our cup of tea, because we have to be well oiled for this job. A bit fierce this is, Robert.
It's pretty hard stuff. Some sort of patching. What do you think it is? Sand and cement, or?
That's sand and cement render without a doubt.
Yep.
Have you had to do much chopping off in the house?
I have, yeah, and it's been awful.
Has it all been like this, all hard render?
Not all of it, no. Some of it's like this, which is softish lime, but a lot of it...
Which I suppose is why you're cutting that bit off.
Well, quite right,
and I'm
Tommy.
cutting this bit off.
Yeah, exactly. You're a lot bigger than me.
Oh, yeah.
Muscles are bigger.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, my brain's not bigger than yours, otherwise I'd be over there. Well, that's the last of it. It's been pretty tough, this. Now, the more observant of you might say, why are you taking all the plaster off the wall when you're going to put a kitchen in front of it? Well, there are two particular reasons here. Number one, the state of the plaster was so bad that it would be difficult to put the kitchen up against it. And number two, this is a wall built of stone. The house is built of stone, and there's no damp course in it at all. Now, Robin might have had problems with damp because somebody in the house's past has taken off the original plaster and put sand and cement render on there. Now, unfortunately, that has stopped the house from breathing, the wall from breathing. Now, you must, when you've got a stone house like this, you must actually plaster the wall with lime plaster. That's porous, that allows the wall to breathe, so any moisture trapped inside can get out. When you do sand and cement render, it's a hard finish and it traps the moisture inside, and then it blows the plaster off the face. All that's left now is to clear up all this mess. Rob, where are you, Rob? With all the work that you've obviously done round the house, it must have created huge amounts of rubbish.
It has. I don't know where it's all gone.
But you didn't seem to be complaining much. You don't mind?
No, I don't mind. I just know that once the rubbish is gone, that I'll have something really nice at the end. Hopefully.
You're very, very patient.
Now, you may wonder why we're making our own carcasses for this kitchen when we could buy standard flat packs. The reason for this, we're trying to utilise all of the space that we've got available in the kitchen so that every little nook and cranny is fully used. With a standard unit or a flat pack unit, you wouldn't be able to do that, but with this method you can. Now, we're using quite a thick board on this. It's an 18mm pine-faced MDF. The reason for using this is so that when we clad the real pine on the outside, we've got a good thickness of board to nail to. And the other reason for using pine boards is so that when you open the unit doors, you can look inside and see a pine finish. Now, this down here that I'm about to cut along here, this will actually be taken out along there and to there, and this is to allow all the pipe work for the sink and the dishwasher to be hidden behind all of the units. Job done, out of sight, nice and tidy.
Now, before you actually start plastering, any holes like this, we use what we call a term of dabbing out. That means that we put some mortar in, I'll show you, like this. All right, and then we take a bit of stone and we squeeze the stone into position. That's it. Lovely. And then we just dab in a bit more mortar. Like that. And we let that go off because here, if you have a look, where this brickwork has been installed, it's very proud of the actual stonework. Now, for me to try and plaster over that, I'd have to wait hours and hours and keep coating it up. So what we do before we actually put on the first coat of plaster, if there's any deep crevices like this, this is where we dab it out so that it actually makes it easier for us to plaster.
Now, we've got all the components together. We've got one end, two ends, bottom shelf, and this is the shelf that's going to sit on the bearers that I'm just about to fix to the ends. Then we've got top front rail and top back rail. Now, we've got to put them all together, and when that's together, we can then nail the back on once this is all squared up. There. Now that's the first unit done. Just got to pop the back on, and then that can go into position in the kitchen when we've got the plastering done.
Now, because we're going to plaster this wall, and it's got an angled reveal, the best way to do it is to make up a former, just a bit of framework out of old timber, scrap timber we found outside, screw it together to make a perfect square frame, and then put it into position. Now, because we're only going to use this temporarily, we want to take it down afterwards. I don't really want to screw it and fix it into the stone. So I've cut what we call folding wedges. Now, if you cut these two, as you bang in each side, they squeeze over one another, thus forcing the frame to fix between the sill below and this top lintel. Spot on.
Hey, Tommy, how you going?
Big Al, we've been out seeing you for hours.
I'm stuck outside. I've run out of daylight. It's all getting a bit dark. I can't see what I'm doing.
So how's it going, Anna?
All right. 2 units are made, so they're ready to go in. Or at least the carcasses are, anyway.
Oh, well done.
So I thought I'd see how you're getting on.
Well, we're going to have a little bit of a problem because the floor runs out about 1.5 inches and this wall runs out about 6 inches. So we're going to have to take that into account for scribing on the units. Otherwise, we're going to have a problem. Now, what have you got to do now? What's the next session for you?
Tidy the van up and I'm off.
I meant one day 2 of the challenge.
Oh, right.
I mean, a day 2 of the challenge. I've got to plaster all this wall and get this straight. And what you got to do?
Oh, crap. I've got to clad the units before they go in pine, make the front frames for them. There's a rack to go there, then there's a unit to make... Oh, there's loads.
Hi, welcome to day 2 of the challenge on this beautiful, sunny, autumnal morning.
It is a bit parky, though.
Yeah, and our task is to work in the heart of this house, in the kitchen. As you can see, the house does need an abundance of work, so why don't you come and join us, see what we've got to do. Come on, Big Al. Ah, well, here we are, in the kitchen. Well, the kitchen to be, you have to use your imagination. And my task today, which is quite a big task, is to plaster all this stonework with lime plaster. What are you doing?
Well, I'm going to be making the cupboards again outside, and I think I've got the best deal in that sunshine.
Why are you making them again? Did you get them wrong the first time?
No, didn't get it wrong. Didn't
You're
quite
just going to
finish.
continue them?
Yeah, just continue.
Right.
I know what I mean.
Yeah, we'll go and start. Yeah. But he thinks he's got the best job because he's out in the sun. But what he doesn't realise is the sun moves round, and then it gets rather cold.
Making a start on the worktops. Now, these timbers have been cut out of beams, not floor joists or anything like that. So I want to try and get them together fairly quickly in case they warp. But we've got to form a method of gluing them together other than just the glue itself. And we use biscuits. Now, this is the Biscuit Jointer, and this is the cutter as it comes out. When you plunge it up against the wood, the cutter goes into the timber and forms a half-moon cut, and you release it off, and you do that all the way down the timbers. On both timbers, then you put the glue into the half-moons, then you put the biscuits in, and then you bring the timbers together, and then you clamp it up and wait for it to dry. Hey, mate, have you got time for a brief conflab over this little area here?
Sure, yeah. Well, what's the problem?
Well, I'm not happy about just doing this as kitchen units along here. Because of this, and because of that partly showing in the break between the units, like the wall units and the base units. And what do you reckon to having something a little bit different in this area?
Like what?
Well,
like an aquarium or something?
You could do if you wanted, but no, I was thinking more of a freestanding item. because the cottage is old, originally it would have had freestanding furniture. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, we're building in over there, and I just wondered about having a bit more of a focal piece here.
Well, we're on the border of Wales. What about Welsh dresser?
That's nice.
This is not a trailer for the claw, and I've not got off my head, as I'm getting old. This is necessary for this next job we're going to show you. It's how to use this expanding filler. Now, you mustn't get it on your hands because it stains them black and it can do all sorts of things. But let me show you this. This was obviously done when this door was constructed, this door opening was constructed. And rather than do a proper job, they obviously stuck a bit of newspaper in here, or cement bag. Well, I bet it's a potato bag. Let's have a look. We are out in the country. Now, £56, that's a potato bag. Absolutely useless. So what we're going to do is take all this stuff out, and we're going to use this expanding foam. See, check out the void area. That's what we've got to fill. First of all, read the instructions carefully. That's done. Then you take some water and flick some water into the gap that you're going to use the foam on, because that helps it to cure and expand. Right, now for the foam. Now, up here, I'm just going to do a little sample to show you what you mustn't do, and that is you mustn't fill the void up right the way up with it. Right, now you think, that's it, I've filled the void. But you actually don't need all that. This is what you need. You just need to go a little bit. Just put a bead in there like that. Great sound effect there, actually. It's great stuff, this, because once it goes off and goes hard, any excess that comes out, you can just cut it off with a saw. And it actually holds the frame firmly in place. It's really good for fixing any voids or any holes at all.
Now, following our little discussion, me and Tommy in the kitchen, this is what I've come up with. A drawing of the dresser. Now, as you can see, I'm no Leonardo da Vinci. But we're going to have a top back fitting with vertical boards. Then these will be plate shelves. Then this will be a frieze with a cornice on the top. Heavy-duty top just there to match the worktops. And then 3 drawers and 2 doors. That's it in a nutshell. All I've got to do is make it. So I suppose I better get cracking.
Now, you see what I mean about this foam? If you put in too much, it creates some weird and wonderful shapes. Now, it doesn't matter if you do and it overflows a little, it's just a waste. But wait till it goes off. Normally you leave it 24 hours. And then you just get an old saw or a knife, and then you just cut off the excess. It's not cutting so well because it's still going off, it hasn't cured. See, it's a bit tacky inside. So it's still going to expand like something from outer space. But when it goes off properly, if you leave it 24 hours and then you cut it with a saw, it's just like cutting a very soft piece of wood, a piece of balsa wood. Just like a hot knife through butter. Ah, just when it was all going so well, the heavens have opened. Oh dear, it's raining, and it's raining hard.
I'm cold and I'm wet. I've got a steaming cold. I've had to put this tarpaulin up because the heavens have opened. Tommy's inside the house in a T-shirt, in the warm, plastering. I think I've got a really raw deal out here, don't you?
Now, this renovating plaster, you use it exactly the same way you do ordinary plaster or sand and cement. You put it on the wall, you put a rough coat on, then you put on a second coat, and then using a straight edge, just pull off the excess so you get a nice flat finish. Now, the idea of using a straight edge, as you pull it off like that, the stuff that's level and flat is rough, and if you get any smooth spots, you know that you're a bit too shallow. So you just add a bit more plaster and then pull the straight edge back over it again until you've got this rough finish over the whole surface. Then you know you're flat.
Now, I've done the trench cuts on the saw, and what they were for is this here. This is what we call a bridle joint, where you've got half of the timber taken away, which then drops into half of the timber taken away on the frame that it slots into. So that goes there, like that. Same on that side. Now, some people call it a bridle joint, some people call it a half lap joint. Now, this is the back of the frame. Looks a bit rustic, too rustic for me. But what it's going to be is this here. If I offer this paper up to you, it's this front frame here, and this centrepiece is the 3 drawers. So we've got a drawer here, we've got a drawer here, and a drawer here. And then on this side, we've got a door. And then over on this side, we've got another door. So all I've got to do is put these side pieces on, and then we should have the frame for the front of the dresser.
So why have you decided to come in here and drive me mad anyway?
Well, I've been outside all day, and I've missed you, Tommy. And I've got all this winding up to do.
Don't you start winding up to do.
Well, we've had no chelping, have we?
We're talking of winding up, actually. I think that's a good point to wind up this day's work. Now, what have you done outside?
All the worktops are glued up. Some of the base units are made and completed, and that's been about it. Oh, put a tarpaulin up.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Thanks for your help with that.
Slightly inclement weather. And I've managed to get all the undercoating done, so we're ready for the top coat.
Brilliant.
Which I shall do tomorrow, and tomorrow you're going to continue with the units?
Yeah, I've got a lot to do tomorrow. I've lost a bit of time today.
So why don't you join us for day 3 of the challenge and see how we get on? And maybe the weather will be better. Come on. This challenge has brought us to the Welsh borders, where Rob and Marty Fleet are living the dream, in a very pretty Victorian cottage surrounded by rolling hills. Ah, if only we had time to enjoy it. But Alan and I are here to create a rustic kitchen made with reclaimed timber. It's going to have a traditional Belfast sink, and Al's making a freestanding Welsh dresser.
Hi, and welcome to day 3 of the challenge.
Yes, we're in Herefordshire, and we're going to make a bespoke, handmade kitchen in a rustic style to match this charming Victorian cottage. It's cold and it's wet.
And I've got loads of wood to machine and prepare for this kitchen, so I better go.
Yeah. He'll be outside and I'll be inside. Oh, it's going to be hot in there. I better take my shirt off. Oh, lovely. Oh, nice and solid. That's gone off perfectly. Ready for the finish coat. But before we do that, we have to take out this formwork, and then we'll put some undercoat plaster straight up these reveals. And while that's going off, then I'll apply the finish coat. And we do that in the right order. By the time I finish putting the finish on here, the reveal should be ready. So first job, jumper down. Let's take this out. Let's take this side out. Well, that's pretty good, actually. Yeah, worked out perfect. Now, the good thing about that is the way I've set the formwork up, and the reason why I did this, the main wall first, is that this would actually give me the angle to do the reveals. So if you see this bit of plaster, you take a straight edge, just fill this in, and then you can actually work it to the straight edge that you've set in plaster, and it'll be perfect. Clever stuff.
Well, we've done everything together. We've built a fireplace in the sitting room, an Inglenook fireplace. When we first moved in, there was a 1970s stone thing, really. And we're really pleased with the way that's turned out. I'm absolutely amazed that Tommy really does do the majority of the work, you know, all the plastering he's done. And the cupboards are going to look absolutely fantastic, the way they've been made. I mean, it's just, I would never, ever have dreamt of having a kitchen quite like that.
So, what was this kitchen like before? I mean, it looks like it was 2 rooms with this beam going through. Would I be
Well, the beam's actually a false beam. I think someone's just put it up just to sort of hang pots and pans and things on.
Good builder I am then, isn't I? Didn't even know it was an imitation beam. So it wasn't 2 rooms?
Well, not really. There was like a hatch. This wall would have gone straight, and there was a hatch area here, which was quite large.
But you're a long way up the road now to finishing?
Yes, yeah, we are.
Yeah. You just want me here for about another 2 years?
Yeah, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Now, I might be persuaded, provided I could have...
Cup of tea?
Yes, if you make me one, then I might stay on a bit longer.
Oh, lovely. OK, that would be great. Thank you.
Oh. You made yourself at home.
Thanks for that.
Like a refugee camp out here. What's this?
This is Welsh dresser front. What we've got...
Oh, what we talked about?
Yeah, what we've got is there'll be a drawer, drawer and drawer, door and door, and the carcass has all been cut. Well, I've just got one more piece to cut. And then the top goes on here, and then the back fitting will go up.
So this will fit to the face of the carcass? So you get a pine finish all the way around?
Yeah, it's like a facade, but then the end panels will be pine, but the internals are MDF, just so that we can move it along on construction.
Well, that'd be nice. Yeah, I like that. How are you getting on out here? Not too bad, is it?
It's a bit blooming parky.
You got a cold?
Oh, have I got a cold? He's only just noticed.
Well, maybe because of the work... Go on, cough away. Don't cough all over me.
Excuse me.
So the working conditions out here are not perfect. Oh, I think I'm going to go back inside and leave you to cough your heart out on your own. It's nice and warm in there, you know. The only trouble is it's making the plaster go off a bit quick.
Oh, you really suffer, don't you? He's all heart. All heart. Now, this piece is the base. And from the base, we've got 2 verticals that come up here. So we'll screw those on first. And you need 3 sets of hands to do this. And now we can offer the front up to the carcass, and it's fingers crossed. Now, that goes under there like so, that goes under there. And now you can see how the drawers will work out. The actual sides of these verticals are the side guides to the drawers. So when this has all been fixed on, all I've got to do is put the rails across here, and then the drawers will just slide in nicely.
Right, when you're preparing plasterboard for plastering, you need to cover all the joints with what we call scrim. It used to be made from jute, but now it's made from some sort of, I don't know, man-made fibre. And it's self-adhesive, so it's very easy to use. A little trick for cutting. See? Right there. There's one other thing we need to do. Because of this, got this exposed corner here, and we want to get a nice finished detail with this oak, I've taken a plasterboard bead and I've cut down one side, cut it right off. So both sides were like that, and I've cut this side off with a set of snips. And the idea is that we can put this into place like that. Now, the reason is because this is going to be like a worktop area and it might get a lot of use, this corner's a bit vulnerable, so this will give it a hard corner. One final thing to get this plasterboard ready before plastering is to apply a coat of Pva adhesive and water onto the surface. Now, I must re-emphasise that the reason we're doing this is because the plasterboard is the wrong way round. If you show the white side out, that's the side you want for decorating. If you want to cover it with plaster, a finished coat, you must show the grey side. And remember, always turn off the power before you do any work like this.
Now, I've already marked a couple, but here's one of the lines. That's where the bearers are going to run for the drawers, along here. Now, the simplest way of doing that line, you can't level it, so you've got to do it with a big square or a square piece of MDF dropped in there.
And I've found over the years that this is by far the easiest method of doing it. And then your drawers run true with each other and they don't tend to tilt back and forth on the front. And then these are the rails. All they are is a rail that's fitted onto there and screwed up to that line, and then your drawer will come through here and stop at about there.
How's it going?
While you're here, can you give me a hand?
Of course I can.
Well,
I think you deserve it.
Dust.
Bit dusty.
What I want to do is get the dresser base up onto here, and then you can help me get the end panels on, if you'd be so kind.
I only came out to bring out a cup of tea. I didn't think I was going to have to start working out here in the cold, you know. Which way round do you want it?
That end's got to come off, and so I want this face here facing us on this long way of the bench.
Right, so, well, you want me to pick the whole thing up, yeah?
Yeah, if you like, and I'll sit over there and watch it. Brilliant. Now then, this one... Right, let's see if this fits then, mate. It's not been in yet. Right, and if I press this back, can you lean in the cupboard and put 3 screws in there to hold that in position?
From this side or from the back?
Whichever's easiest for you.
I think it'd be easier to screw from the back.
Yeah, all right.
Oh, lovely.
Now we're moving on to another phase of the dresser now. It's drawers time. We've got to machine, or I've just had to machine rather, this channel out here. It's actually called an open housing, and the side will go from there, and then the drawer will slot into this groove here. Now, come have a look at this. I didn't get the gun quite in parallel with the front of the drawer front, and look at that. If I'd been holding that drawer front just there, that would have been straight in my finger. So you've got to be aware of the danger of these guns. Whether it's one of these or whether it's an air-powered one, just be careful. That should go into there, like that. And when that's set, I'll put some depth stops on this. And when that's set, it'll just be recessed in slightly, and I'll get rid of that as well.
So how do you think you did today?
Got on really well today. Yeah, really drawn the job forwards. What about you?
Well, I managed to get all the finished coat on the plastering, so that's all ready. Hopefully it'll dry overnight and we'll be ready to start the next stage tomorrow. And hopefully it's going to look a lot better than this old rubbish that was in there when we started.
When we first arrived, yeah.
All right, Al.
Yeah.
Welcome to day 4 of the challenge, and our challenge is to turn this pile of old second-hand timber into a most beautiful, bespoke, handmade kitchen. Rustic style, of course, because we have a resident joiner here, Mr. Alan Hurd, who designed this beautiful kitchen.
Yeah, when it's in.
How's it going?
It's going all right. I'm a little bit behind, but it's going all right.
Well, now, what I promised you yesterday, he's got a bad cold and he's had to endure this inclement weather out here in the garden. So I said to him yesterday, to be fair to him, I'm going to let him go and work inside and do some plastering, because he was moaning that he didn't do any plastering, and I said I would take over the work out here in the garden. So, you can carry on, young man. Trowel and everything's ready for you inside.
It's beautiful blue sky.
Don't you worry about that. You see, off you go. You wanted to work inside, and I said I don't mind. See, I'm very compliant. I don't mind. But obviously, the sun only shines on the righteous. Now, where do I start? Frame. And... hold on, let me just ask him. Al?
Tommy's let me loose on this wall in here. And I'm using a multi-finish plaster. And you can use this as a skim coat, or a set, as Tommy calls it, onto a render finish or a plasterboard. So, get this mixed up and boshed on the wall.
But over the time, we've picked up all sorts of skills. We can make doors and door frames, we can do bricklaying, we can do all sorts of things that we would never have anticipated doing before. Obviously, from time to time, there is a bit of a skill shortage, and in fact, we're rather delighted that Tommy and the gang are here sorting some of them out for us.
Now, when you apply the plaster, you've got to get it thick enough to cover the scrim, and the scrim is what covers the two butt joints of the plasterboard. Now, often you get a little ridge there, and that ridge can form thicker plaster there than there. So it has a tendency of showing through. Always be aware that if it shows through and you let it dry, it's going to show up in your paintwork always.
When you're working with reclaimed timber, you never quite know how it's going to come out when you machine it. This is ordinary just white pine, and when we put it through the machine, it's left the surface very, very coarse, very rough. Now, I know this is going to be a rustic kitchen, but not that rough. So all you need to do is just sand this side, get the old belt sander. There you go, now look at that. Lovely and smooth. Completely different to the piece of timber we had, what, just a minute ago. But don't over sand it or else you'll flatten down this round detail in between. There you go, lovely. Now, I've got to bring the other one into play. And I have to say that Mr. Hurd's been very clever. What he's managed to do, this is a matching pair of doors, and he's rebaited them so that the actual gap in the door works perfectly on a parallel bead and butt. So there's a rebaited door. So when you put the two together, this will sit down and they'll shut. It will look like one panel. But in actual fact, it'll be a pair of doors. I want to give him 9.5 out of 10 for that because he's been a very good boy today. While Big Al puts the finishing touches to the dresser, I'm going to sort out the hinges. Now, because of the rustic nature of the handmade kitchen, I thought it'd be rather inappropriate to go and buy new hinges, shiny new things off the shelf. So I thought it needs something handmade, something special, different. And I think I found the man to make the perfect job. Good morning, is it Peter?
Oh, good morning.
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Oh, that's a bit threatening, isn't it? Got to be careful there. Lucky you're as tall as me, you could be in big trouble. Now, I believe you've got some hinges for me.
Yes, I have. Here's one, is that what you've got in mind?
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's absolutely perfect. And it's all hammered by hand, this, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I like that. That's very clever. So this is the hinge pin that we actually fix into the frame.
That's right, that'll drive into the
little pilot
hinge,
hole,
yeah.
tap it
That's
in, slot that on top, just like that.
That's him.
Oh, I'm really pleased with it. Can I have a go?
You certainly can.
How do you like your burgers cooked?
Oh, one onion.
Oh, that's great. One onion.
There you are, that's the eye done.
I've got to say, Peter, that is very, very impressive. Look at that.
Over here, I've done a little bit of a decorative clover leaf. Now, it's quite simple. It looks very effective when it's in its full glory, and I'll show you how to do it. mark out a template like that. Then you place it on a cross that you've marked in the position that you want. And then you drop over the clover leaf. Then you centralise it and mark it with a pencil. Then all you need is a drill and a drill bit, like so. Very, very sharp. And carefully line it up like so. That's that one. Now we've got to cut the stalk. So if we mark that on like so, and then jigsaw it out. Mr. Walsh.
Is that a cue for me?
A cue for you. Can you give me a hand with this, chap? What I've got to do is
That's
3
nice.
shelves. Do you like that?
Oh, very creative. So what are we going to do?
We've got to have 3 shelves, 1, 2, 3. The backboards, the frieze, the cornice and the feet, and then it can go in and be mated up with its mate bottom part.
Do you want me to cut 3 shelves here?
No, it's all cut. They're down here.
Oh, right, just assembling it?
Just assembly. There you go, sir.
Oh. Or it's going to take forever.
Goes in there. Goes in there.
You got the weight of it, yeah?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, be careful.
Do you know, I haven't tried this on yet.
Now, don't tell me this ain't going to fit. I'll tell you what would be your worst nightmare.
Now, get it vertical. That's it.
Oh, hold on. There. Mr. Hurd, you have done yourself proud. That looks lovely.
Yeah, I'm very pleased with it.
Absolutely beautiful. And it's the first piece of furniture we've actually fitted in the kitchen, and it's day 4 of the challenge, the end of day 4 of the challenge. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We've got 1 day left to go, and we've still got all the units to go in, the worktops, and, of course, the lovely Belfast Sink. That's got to go in.
Yeah, that's going to be tricky.
So, will we finish the kitchen? You'll have to tune in to day 5 of the challenge to see whether Rob and Marty get their dream kitchen. Robert and Marty Fleet have lived in their Victorian cottage for 7 years and have been renovating it for 7 years. They've been slogging away on their own all this time, so now they need a helping hand to sort out what should be the heart of the home, the kitchen. This is the first unit going into the fitting kitchen, and we've got merely a few hours left to fit this kitchen. How's that?
That's it.
Are you getting nervous?
Am I? Yeah, of you.
Right, pass over the screws. Now, because you can't get a rustic dishwasher like one of Alan's kitchens, we're going to try and conceal it. So I've got to make a cabinet that's going to house it. I mean, look at the cuts I've had to do there, look. The first thing I did was to mark it out on the floor, and I've drawn the line. That gives me an idea of exactly the size of unit I've got to build. And if I work to those lines on the floor and plumb it up, I can't go wrong. That's nice. That one's in. Now, this is what Alan's constructed to face up the front of the units with. So it's tongued and grooved. All I've got to do is apply some glue. Now, all we have to do now is put the dishwasher in, put the top on and work the top in to match the rest of the kitchen. Now, one thing about this, because it's going to have a dishwasher inside, you have to have access. We can't, and it's a big unit, we can't have one door, so we're going to make a pair of doors that fit in there so it doesn't extend too far into the kitchen. But one good thing about having the dishwasher in a nice roomy cabinet, custom made to suit, is that you can put all storage inside. You can put all your tablets and your bleach and all your bits and pieces in there. 2 jobs in one.
Our lifestyle has changed completely since we came here. Instead of living what I would term a suburban lifestyle, we now lead a very rural lifestyle. We keep chickens. In fact, we've even been breeding a few chickens. It's been a very different experience. I don't work all of the hours. I don't travel miles every day to go to work, and it's just revolutionised the way I live. We've been here now for 7.5 years, and the greatest thing has been that Tommy and the gang have come and helped us with a room, because after a while you seem to sort of lose sight of the finish. It just seems so far away, and you're working flat out all the time and just don't seem to be able to quite get there. And when someone comes in and actually sorts out a room in a week, you sort of feel to yourself, well, actually it is all achievable, and we can get there in the end.
It's a real morale boost, I think, and it's just going to look fantastic. I can't wait.
Really tricky bit, this is. I've got to fit this piece of worktop into this area here, and we've got returns here that isn't true to this, that isn't true to that, that isn't true to that, because this tapers off here, and then that tapers off there, and I've got no room for error whatsoever. But what I've done is marked it all off. We did it in 2 ways to check. Tommy uses a block method, and I use a measurement and angle method. We've done both. We've got the mark. I made a mistake once, so now it's time to cut. Now that's not far off, but what I've got to do here is a little gap along that back edge. So I've got to ease it out a little bit more along here. So with my pencil. Now, it may not have fitted exactly first time. Measure once, cut twice, then you don't have to make them again.
That's where we've been going wrong.
What?
It's measure twice and cut once. Good grief.
Is that what I said? See if it'll fit. Lovely job.
Whilst we get on inside, I've sent Rob to cut a template for the sink.
It's time to put in the supports for the Belfast Sink. Now, it's quite a heavy unit, and as normal sinks would be supported by the worktop, this is underneath the worktop, so it's got to be supported from below. So we've got some heavy-duty timbers that are supported from the side of the units on battens and screwed into place. Then we'll drop the sink onto these. So we'll get these in position and screwed up.
Right, now this is a decor panel. It's going to go at the end of the carcass, the side that will be seen. It's just glued and pinned. I've cut it and scrubbed it. Give us a hand with this, Rob.
Yeah, no trouble at all.
First of all, I want to put a line of glue just on the outside edge. Up here. Just up there. And again, up here. Right, now the reason for that is because this decor panel is made up of different pieces of timber and it has to be able to move.
Right.
So we just fix the 2 ends and that allows a bit of flexibility in the middle there. And just push that into place. Let me just align the front. Right, put a cramp on that, Rob.
Okay.
That's it, stand back.
Do you want to go round that side?
Okay.
If you grab hold of this end, mate.
Yep.
That's it, I'll take this end.
Right.
Yeah, it's got to go round there like that.
Right. No, you got it out. Hold on.
I've got that now.
Hold on, I'm not that slim. Hold on, wait a minute. That's it. Well, I am really, but...
Yeah, then we've got to keep it back from that edge.
Right, yeah, this has been a...
Now,
Yeah, now we've slipped it in. That's it. That really looks nice, that does, huh?
Yeah, it's not bad, is it? But all we've got to do now is put the template on for the sink.
Template, please, nurse. Lovely.
Here we go then, guys.
Thank you very much. Right. I've marked on here 150mm from the back wall to the edge of this, so we've got to get this in line, Tommy.
150mm?
Yeah.
Oh, we've got a fair bit. I'm only on 125 here. So I've got to come right back to there.
Yeah. Right, then we'll mark round it. And that should be where the Belfast sink is underneath.
Now, we're using reclaimed timber for this kitchen, but we've decided to go for a new sink. You can easily pick up old Belfast sinks, but the glaze isn't going to be as tough as it will with a new one. It may be called a Belfast sink, but it's made in Stoke-on-Trent, right at the heart of the potteries.
We've been making sinks for over 100 years on this site. We manufacture around 55, 60,000 a year. Years ago, it was predominantly commercial product, went into hospitals, commercial applications, school labs, etc. However, over recent years, it's developed into the domestic market, sinks going into luxury kitchens. That's predominantly the Belfast range. The process mixes very, very old traditional processes with more modern processes. Over the years, we've gone from fire clays to slightly more refined materials. They're scooped up with a digger, loaded into great big hoppers, measured out into vats where they mix together to produce a slip. The slip is then cast in plaster moulds, very much in the same way that it's been done for hundreds of years. The technology that's then been introduced helps us to speed up that process. So we basically use microwave technologies that have accelerated the time frame of getting the product from when it's first cast to into the warehouse for the customer. When the piece is demolded, it has a number of seams on the piece. These seams have to be removed, and that's where a large element of the old skills still come in. The product then goes into a dryer. It comes out of the dryer. From the dryers, it moves to the spraying process. The green glaze that we apply to the Belfast sink isn't the coloration that you see when it's the finished product. It's basically a vegetable stain that's put in to allow you to identify where you've sprayed. The fining process, which goes up to 1200 degrees C, effectively burns out all of that dye, which gives it the gloss and the white appearance that you would recognise in the kitchen.
This is the glaze that gives the famous white finish. They have to ensure this is always the same, so any piece can be replaced.
The ones that are acceptable move into the warehouse, where we dispatch to a variety of customers. The kitchen business is moving towards the old wooden style kitchens of years ago, with the adoption of augers and a far heavier and bigger feel to the kitchens, and the Belfast fits perfectly into that.
We've marked out with the template where we're going to cut out for the sink. I'm going to use a drill bit for the corners because I want a radius curve here. And by drilling 4 holes, 1 at each corner of the sink, you don't then have to go around a tight curve with the jigsaw. Let's give it a go.
It. So I've put a batten across the bottom, tightened it up with a cramp, so that will keep it level while he cuts the rest of that out. You're doing a grand job.
Cheers. Oh, hang on a minute. You put the clamp in so I can't get my jigsaw back in.
Well, I thought you was one of them philatelists. You could use both hands. Look, so you can come from this end. See?
Oh, you may as well do it then.
There we are. Now, as a special present for Marty, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to shape these ends like that. give it a bit of a rub down all around the side, and she will have the perfect matching chopping board. Mr. Hurt. This is that wonderful Belfast Sink.
It's rather smart.
And the weight of it, I wished it had stayed there. Come on. Right, shall we two this in?
Yeah.
It's rather heavy, so be careful. Watch your back.
Okay.
Ready, 1, 2, 3. Get your hand in the middle because of them right.
That's it.
Got your hand in the right place?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There you go, look at that. That's as snug as a bug in a
rug.
In a rug.
Very nice.
We've machined up this reclaimed timber to make tongue and groove panel door. Now, there's the tongue and there's the groove. Now, we don't actually glue it. If you can see, it moves. We just lock these in without any glue. The reason being, if you glue them and it moves and shrinks and expands, it tends to split down the panels. So what we're going to do, to make this door stable, I've marked the back 100 mil in from each end, and we just take a batten and we put a bit of glue, just a spot on the centre of each one. Then we put the batten on, centred it up.
Kitchen's been a bit of a joke with everybody, really, because to us it was, you know, to be honest, really, it wasn't really that bad in our eyes because it was so terrible when we got here. We had no kitchen cupboards at all, and a friend of mine had a new kitchen fitted, so I just said, well, can we have your old ones? You know, and that's what we had, was my friend's old kitchen unit, so it was perfectly usable. And then to get the chance of something like this and have a fantastic bespoke kitchen is just incredible. So everyone's going to be round to go, wow, it's fantastic. Yeah. I didn't realise that Tommy actually did a lot of the work. You know, you imagine that he does a little bit for camera and then someone else comes in and does it all, but it's not like that at all. And Alan, the cupboards are absolutely fantastic. The woodwork, it's just beautiful. We're really pleased. But it's been good. Really enjoyed the experience.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you what, before you do anything, that's it, stick them up now. Come on now. Once your surrender.
It's getting late in the day. Let's get it in.
It's like a revolver, isn't it? Well, a snub-nosed one.
Right.
Right, put that piece in there. You in?
Yeah.
Hold on down a bit. Oh. Does that want a persuader?
It does indeed.
Tight, that is. Now, have I got a special surprise for you? I've got a present. I've been keeping them from you. Something special for the kitchen. Look at them for hinges.
Blimey dang.
They're nice, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
These are all hand-forged. I actually had to go and do one myself. So one of these is hand-forged by me.
Oh, lovely.
So, lay this down, I'll show you. There's a special way of fixing these. Is this the hinge side up?
Yeah, that's all right.
Right, so they're going to go down like that, and that one like that. But the fixings are special. I'm not showing you everything all at once, because this is my little surprise for you. Those are the fixings, the hinge pins. Now, the idea is that you actually put a little Bridle mark into the framework, and then you tack these in. You've got to be careful because there ain't too much adjustment on them. Yeah. You can turn them a little bit. Yeah. But once they're in, you can't take them back out.
Right, OK.
So now, is this the top?
Yeah.
That's the top. So that goes like that. In there. And, this is my pièce de résistance. These are the D-handles, little tiny copies of these.
It's got into this. It's amazing.
Yeah. Now that obviously will go over there, probably be high.
High for the low cupboards.
Yeah, high up there. And to fix them, now this is something special here, look. You like these? Handmade nails, look at that. So we've got to fix these. What you do, you nail through.
Yeah.
And then you, with a pair of pinchers, you just turn the tip.
Yeah.
And then the surplus that sticks out the back of the door, you bang that in So that sort of goes into the timber and traps the nail.
It's amazing.
Now the hinges and doors are on, it's time to bring back all the appliances. That's a tight fit. Well, Mr. Hurd, your thoughts? I mean, do you love it? Do you just love it?
I love it. I do love it. It's come out better than I thought it would do.
Anything was better than the original kitchen. I mean, do you remember what the original kitchen was like? It was horrible. There's pipes everywhere, it was falling apart. So let's talk through some of the events we had. Rip the old kitchen out first.
Yeah.
Then rip off the old plaster.
Yeah.
Then, of course, we had to use special plaster, lime plaster on the walls to allow them to breathe.
Yeah.
You machined?
Yeah, machined the timber out and made the Welsh dresser.
Yeah, that's fab. That really is a nice piece.
Yeah.
And, of course, you couldn't possibly have, in a rustic period kitchen like this, you couldn't have one of those dishwashers on show. So I thought that was quite a clever innovation to actually, you know, enclose it in there.
Yeah, very good idea, that.
I wonder what Marty and Rob actually think about it. Well, guys, it's judgment time. What do you think?
I think it's absolutely brilliant. What do you think?
I can't believe it. It is better than I could ever imagine. I'm really pleased. It's just fantastic. I just can't thank you enough. It really is absolutely wonderful. Really pleased.
Well, thank you. I mean, that's what we always look for. That
It is.
we do a good job, hopefully.
Yeah,
and
well, you
the
certainly
client
do.
like it.
And
Yeah?
you work very, very hard as
I
well
know.
to achieve it.
Long hours.
Yeah, very long hours.
I think this is actually the longest day I've ever worked. You know,
I wouldn't
give it
be
a couple of
surprised.
hours and the sun will be rising.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what's your favourite item?
Oh, mine's definitely the dresser.
It is, yeah, the dresser. Absolutely superb.
I didn't think a piece that large would really suit this kitchen, but it's just absolutely perfect. It really is absolutely wonderful. I can get all my rubbish in there, shut it in the cupboards and the drawers, and now...
Hey, we're not having you making a mess of it now.
Well, I know the rest of the kitchen's nice and compact, but I think in the shape and size of this kitchen, you can't really do much more, otherwise you'll overcrowd it.
That's right.
I think this will function and work very well.
Yeah.
So we have two very happy people here, and the end of another long and successful challenge. So join us for the next one.
Since the kitchen was fitted, we found it an absolute pleasure to use.
Well, now this kitchen's completed, and I'm just the envy of all my friends. They just think it's fantastic. Whereas before I was the laughing stock because I had this awful, unworkable kitchen. People are just amazed how it can be transformed in a relatively short time. I mean, it's taken us years to do other things on the house, but in a week, it's just amazing.
What we have found is we've been filled with a new vigour and enthusiasm for our do-it-yourself exploits, and we're already planning our next project up in one of the bedrooms.
And there's so much storage space, and I can have the things out that I want to because I've got lots of worktop. The Welsh dress is absolutely fabulous. It's fantastic, really pleased.